If you've ever felt things like intermittent fasting, a certain calorie intake, or fasted high-intensity training used to give you incredible results, but now they're leaving you feeling stuck or even going backwards, you're not alone. Your body is beautifully adaptive. When you introduce what we would term a new hormetic stressor, you initially create a beneficial challenge. It's a signal that something needs to change. You can burn stored fuel, increase your insulin sensitivity, mobilize fat, or ramp up repair. And you'll often see fantastic improvements at first, and these are the things that keep us stuck because we're constantly chasing that newbie gain. But over time, if you don't come out of that, what was once a hormetic challenge becomes your body's new baseline. Quite simply, it adapts, which is why those same strategies can then start to backfire. Instead of losing fat, you can see muscle loss or stubborn fat retention or fat gain. Chronic energy restriction through prolonged deficits will lower basal metabolic rate, cause energy drops, and make our tolerance to glucose decline rather than improve. It'll also play with mood, sleep, and digestion. Repeated fasted training will be interpreted as a lack of available fuel because the brain has no context as to why you have not eaten before exercising. It assumes lack of food, not a choice, which will then force up your stress hormone levels, worsening issues with fat storage and muscle loss. You can also see metabolic changes due to thyroid and reproductive hormone levels dropping, which can cause menstrual changes and poor recovery. And this is because the body's priority is always survival, not a six-pack. So if it feels insecure, it's going to fight tooth and nail not to be depleted any further. And to avoid this, all we have to do is simply keep things new and novel. Alternate periods of fasting or calorie deficits with periods of maintenance or surplus nourishment for body remodeling, or phases of higher intensity training with lower intensity recovery focus blocks. You can tie these to different periods in your life for maximum benefits too. For example, in summer, longer daylight hours, more social events, more outdoor movement. Maybe you naturally do more intermittent fasting because dinner happens later and mornings are active, and you might train harder because you feel energized by the bright light. But in winter, shorter days, colder weather, you switch to more nourishing meals and gentler exercise without as much cardio intensity. And you've created a seasonal ebb and flow of stress and replenishment. Or a woman might use her menstrual cycle, as in the follicular phase at the beginning, high estrogen makes us more resilient to stress. We can do higher intensity training with a moderate calorie deficit for some fat loss with muscle gain. But then in the luteal phase, as progesterone rises and insulin sensitivity changes, the body needs stability. Exercise becomes restorative, which allows for continued fat burn and maintenance of that new muscle, but with a higher carbohydrate intake and maintenance calories. Basically, if you feel like what used to work isn't working anymore, it's not because the strategy is inherently bad, it's because it's lost its novelty and you've adapted. That's a sign of a smart and responsive body. To regain those benefits, you just need to move away from chronic application to cyclical challenge.